For the entirety of human existence, we have created. From creating the first tool to the first airplane to the first computer, humans have never stopped innovating and inventing, until we created something that stunted humans' natural curiosity. The internet. Suddenly, everyone has a supercomputer in their pockets, unlimited access to sensory information, and enough content to last millions of lifetimes. We have Netflix, YouTube, TikTok, porn, video games, constant stimulation and fun right at our fingertips. Why would you be the one creating when it's so much more stimulating to consume? I remember when I was younger, I had all of these random creative interests. I remember I was really obsessed with making paper airplanes, so I would go out to the park after making them and throw them around to see which one went the farthest. I also really liked doing trick shots. There was one day where I took the whole day trying to do this one trick and I never got it. I was also really into throwing cards and random little stuff like that, but eventually YouTube, TikTok, and Fortnite took their place. You probably have a similar story to mine, where when you were a kid, you probably had some creative desires, but those desires faded over time. The internet gives you access to unlimited consumption, which means your mind has access to unlimited stimulation. There are certain creators and content and video games out there that are perfectly curated for someone just like you. When I was young, the reason my creativity faded was because video games were this different world that I could go into, that had missions, things for me to do, places for me to go. And when I looked at real life, there was no set missions, no set goals, there was no clear path. And so video games and social media became this outlet for me to look into a world that was more stimulating than real life. It destroyed my creative mind by hardwiring it to consumption. Consuming content on social media and playing video games was so much more stimulating than doing trick shots and making paper airplanes. But what is the reason for that? Why are all of these things that we consume all the time so much more rewarding and stimulating than doing creative tasks, than doing difficult creative things? And when you look at it from a biological standpoint, it becomes a lot easier to understand how consumption can start to take over your life and why it's so much more fun to do these things than to work hard and be creative. You've probably heard of the chemical dopamine before, but what you probably don't know is what it does from an evolutionary standpoint. Dopamine is the chemical that's used within our reward system, and you probably know that it's involved with pleasure and motivation. This rewarding feeling is released of pleasure when you do specific activities. When you look back to when humans were very primal and we were living in tribes, survival was the most important thing for humans. And dopamine was a way to build certain habits, to know that doing this thing would help us survive better. Whenever a caveman would go hunt and kill something and then eat it, this rewarding feeling of dopamine being released in the brain would happen, so that they would know that doing that thing was good. It was helping them survive. And when you look at how a lot of the forms of modern consumption release dopamine in your brain, you can start to understand how these things become so easily addictive. Social media and video games are built to get a response from your reward system. The reason that there's so many missions and goals and XP to get in video games is because when you get those things, there is a boost of dopamine in your brain. Your brain thinks you're competing, you're winning, you're making progress, you should be rewarded for it. And on social media, the likes and the comments and the posting and getting recognition and attention, when you get the attention and when you get the appreciation from other people on social media, your brain thinks, oh my gosh, this is an amazing thing. And so it makes sense why all these different parts of the internet can turn into very addictive behaviors. They turn into habits because your brain is giving you a reward when you do these things. But what your brain doesn't know is that these are destructive addictions and that we already have all of our basic needs met. Survival is no longer something that every human has to worry about. And that is how the internet takes away your creativity. It puts all these addictive, stimulating, sensory things right in front of you, which makes it extremely easy to overconsume. But almost all ambitions and passions and goals involve some sort of creativity. If you're trying to create a business to make money, you need to think of a bunch of different ideas and execute on the ones that you think people are going to buy, that people are going to pay you for. Even something like working out, you have to be creating and tweaking your workout routine, the exercises that you do, how you do them. It's very important to be able to have a creative mind, which means that your mind can't always be preoccupied by consumption, by the internet, by social media, by video games, and distracted all the time. Getting that creativity back that you had as a little kid, going out and having fun and trying to do different things, create different things just because you wanted to. It's all about dialing back the consumption in your life. Because from what I know, overconsumption is a way to live a boring, unfulfilling, and unsatisfying life. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. If you did, scroll down and subscribe right now. You're gonna like all of my other content. Never stop improving. You'll be grateful for it later.